Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast. Thank you for watching or listening to the podcast. What does the U.S. Navy know that the rest of the world doesn't? Because right now, America is pouring nearly $125 billion into nuclear submarines, the biggest underwater military buildup in decades. New stealth submarines, expanding shipyards, rising tensions with China, Russia, and a Navy preparing for a future conflict almost nobody is talking about. But here's the real question. Why now? Tonight, we break down the Navy's explosive new shipbuilding plan and what it could mean for the future of global power beneath the oceans. And before we dive in, hit like if you enjoy deep dive military analysis, subscribe for more defense and geopolitical content, and share this video with someone following the growing global arms race. Most importantly, I want your opinion in the comments. Is this smart preparation or warning sign that a major conflict is getting closer? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading and replying to as many comments as possible.
Well, it's a critical question, really. And what's fascinating here is the sheer precision and, frankly, the desperation of this strategy. I mean, our mission for this deep dive is to look at the latest updates regarding the future years defense program.
Oh, FYDP?
Exactly, specifically for the fiscal years 2027 through 2031. So we're looking at a hyper-focused, incredibly expensive 5-year window here.
Yeah, it's a very tight time frame.
It is. And by analyzing this specific time frame, we can uncover the geostrategic realities driving this massive investment. This isn't just a shopping list for the military. It's a fundamental restructuring of the U.S. subsurface fleet designed to survive a very specific, rapidly approaching window of global vulnerability.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the financial scale we're looking at, the latest info is, frankly, it's absolutely staggering.
Oh, it's massive.
Yeah, we're talking about $124.9 billion earmarked entirely for submarines over just 5 years. That's a huge, almost unprecedented leap in peacetime spending. But what really catches my eye is how this money is divided.
Right, the split.
Exactly. It's almost perfectly split down the middle.
Yeah.
You've got $62 billion dedicated to procuring 5 Columbia-class submarines. And then the remaining $62.9 billion goes toward 10 Virginia-class submarines.
Yeah, and that breaks down to a very rigid schedule.
Right. Exactly 1 Columbia and exactly 2 Virginias being bought every single year.
Right.
I mean, just in fiscal year 2027, the latest info shows over $15 billion allocated for the Columbias and almost $14 billion for the Virginias.
And, that equal split is highly intentional. It's crucial to understand that these 2 classes of submarines serve entirely different, non-overlapping functions in global geopolitics.
Right.
So the Columbia-class are SSBNs, which are nuclear ballistic submarines, and the Virginia-class are SSNs, nuclear attack submarines.
Let me jump in here because all these acronyms can get really dense.
Oh, absolutely.
The way I visualize it for anyone listening and trying to picture the difference, it's like having a sniper on the roof and a panic room in the basement.
Oh, that is an excellent way to frame it. Yeah.
Right. So the Virginia-class attack subs, the SSNs, those are your snipers. They're fast, highly tactical, designed to hunt down enemy ships, gather intel, strike tactical targets.
Exactly.
But the Columbia-class, the SSBNs, that is the panic room. That's your ultimate untouchable strategic deterrent. It doesn't hunt other ships. It just hides in the deep ocean, carrying nuclear ballistic missiles, guaranteeing mutually assured destruction.
Precisely. The SSBNs are basically the most survivable leg of the U.S. nuclear triad. If everything else on land and in the air is destroyed, the Columbia-class guarantees a retaliatory strike.
Wow. Okay.
So, yeah, you have a fleet built for tactical engagement and a fleet built to ensure total global deterrence.
But wait, hold on. This is where I have to push back a little.
Sure, go ahead.
I mean, $62 billion for one type, $62.9 billion for another. It just seems almost too neat because we're looking at a massive bottleneck in the 2030s, which we'll get to in a minute.
Right, the shortfall.
Yeah. If we know we have a shortage of attack submarines coming up, why are our hands tied to this rigid 1 and 2 schedule?
It's a fair question.
Right. Why lock into exactly 1 Columbia and 2 Virginias annually? Why not just maintain flexibility, maybe pause the incredibly expensive ballistic subs for a year, and pump out extra attack subs to fill that tactical gap?
Well, because flexibility in this specific industrial context actually equals vulnerability. The geostrategic implication here isn't just about the boats themselves, it's about saving the capability to actually build them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Building a nuclear submarine is arguably one of the most complex manufacturing tasks on the planet. You can't just turn a nuclear assembly line on and off.
I guess not.
It's not like an automotive plant where you can, switch from making sedans to making trucks based on quarterly demand.
So you're saying the infrastructure itself is that fragile?
Incredibly fragile, and that is exactly why the latest updates show an additional $6.2 billion injected directly into the submarine industrial base.
Wow, just for the base.
Right. That money is strictly for supply chain stabilization and workforce growth.
Let's break that down because, supply chain stabilization sounds like corporate buzzword bingo to me.
Oh, it definitely does.
What does that $6.2 billion actually do in the real world?
It basically means keeping the lights on at mom-and-pop machine shops across the Midwest. To build a submarine, you need hyper-specialized components.
Like what?
Well, you need acoustic tiling that absorbs sonar, highly classified nuclear propulsion valves, specialized metallurgy that can withstand the crushing pressures of the deep ocean.
Right. And the Navy doesn't make those.
Exactly. The Navy doesn't make these parts. Thousands of small private contractors do. If the Navy decides to, say, pause building a submarine to save money one year, that small machine shop in Ohio that only makes specialized submarine valves goes bankrupt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then they fire their highly trained welders.
And once those welders leave for a different industry, you can't just get them back when you decide to start building again.
Exactly. You lose the human capital, you lose the security-cleared workforce. It takes years to train someone to weld materials for a nuclear reactor safely.
That makes sense.
So that $6.2 billion isn't for the Navy directly. It's a frantic effort to subsidize those suppliers so they don't go out of business.
That's wild.
And on top of that, the latest updates outline another $7.2 billion allotted specifically for nuclear shipbuilder productivity enhancements over that same 5-year period.
So they're essentially subsidizing the shipyards to figure out how to build things faster and more efficiently.
Yes, exactly. The Navy is explicitly stating that continuing to procure the Virginias, which includes 6 of the Block 6 standard boats and 4 of the new Block 6, is necessary to preserve the production base.
Okay.
The Block 6 and Block 6 designations represent massive technological upgrades. We're talking better acoustic superiority, increased payload capacity.
Right.
But more importantly, this multi-year contract creates stable demand. It retains that specialized workforce, modernizes the dry docks, and reduces delays through advanced procurement.
It's basically life support for the industry.
Pretty much. This isn't just about buying submarines. This is about preserving American industrial dominance. Because if you lose the capability to build these machines, you cannot rebuild that capability in the middle of a conflict.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because despite pouring $125 billion into the shipyards to pump out all these new, upgraded forms of undersea dominance, the math does something highly alarming.
It really does.
You'd think a $125 billion cash injection means instant invincibility. But shipbuilding isn't software. You can't just push an update.
No, you definitely cannot.
Because of how long these take to build, the math leaves us with a terrifying gap. The latest info reveals that the total number of attack submarines in service actually drops to 45 in the years 2030 and 2031.
Yeah, that is the crucial window of vulnerability.
And part of what is driving this drop is a detail that is just absolutely wild. The latest updates reveal that the USS Connecticut, which is a highly advanced Seawolf-class attack sub, is scheduled to leave service early in 2031. And the reason? Because in 2021, it had a high-speed collision with an underground mountain, a seamount.
Yeah, an incredible incident.
So just 5 years after re-entering service from that collision, it's being decommissioned, becoming the first of its class to retire.
And, we really cannot understate what a massive loss that is. The Seawolf-class submarines are unique.
How so?
Well, they were designed at the end of the Cold War to be the ultimate ultra-quiet deep-diving hunters. Only 3 were ever built because they were so astronomically expensive.
Oh, only 3.
Just 3. And they're often used for highly sensitive, specialized intelligence-gathering missions. So losing one of the 3 Seawolves early is a massive blow to the Navy's specialized capabilities right when they need every hull in the water.
Okay, so we hit this low point of 45 attack subs in 2030 and 2031. But you mentioned a window of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Is it just the drop in attack subs that makes this time frame so dangerous?
No, actually, if we connect this to the bigger picture, that drop to 45 attack subs represents a severe geostrategic danger, sure. But it gets significantly more precarious when you look at the other capabilities leaving the board at the exact same time.
Okay, what else is leaving?
Well, we talked about the snipers in the panic rooms, the SSNs and the SBNs, but there is a third category, the SSGNs.
Ah, right. Nuclear-powered guided missile submarines.
Yes, and according to the latest info, the U.S. Navy will find itself with absolutely 0 SSGNs starting in 2029.
Wait, 0. Completely gone.
Completely gone. This happens when the USS Florida decommissions, and that zero capacity gap lasts all the way until the 2040s, when new payloads on future Virginias are supposed to eventually compensate.
Let's explain why that matters to you, the listener.
Yeah.
Because an SSGN is a very specific type of weapon.
It really is.
An SSGN, like the USS Florida, is essentially an underwater cruise missile truck. It doesn't carry nukes. It carries up to 154 Tomahawk cruise missiles. And these missiles are capable of striking land targets from hundreds of miles away with pinpoint accuracy.
Right. And the key word there is stealth. If the U.S. wants to project conventional, meaning non-nuclear power, against a land target today, an SSGN can park off a coast undetected and unleash 154 precision strikes.
Which is huge.
It's massive. If you lose that submarine, you have to replace that firepower with surface ships, like destroyers.
And everyone with a satellite can see a destroyer coming.
Exactly. You lose the element of surprise, and your surface fleet becomes vulnerable to anti-ship missiles.
Wow.
So, let's look at the totality of this window of vulnerability. Right as the total attack subnumbers dip to their lowest point in 2030 and 2031, the guided missile subcapability vanishes entirely. The tactical, conventional strike power of the undersea fleet is severely kneecapped.
Man, that makes the sheer scale of the budget make so much more sense. That's why this massive $125 billion push is so frantic.
Yes, it's a desperate race against the clock.
Right, they're trying to stabilize the industrial base, bail out the mom-and-pop supply chains, and pump out the Virginias and Columbias to survive this precise window of vulnerability before the older ships completely age out of the fleet.
Exactly.
It's basically a massive Band-Aid to bridge a terrifying gap.
It is entirely about bridging that gap. The Navy is accepting the pain of the early 2030s to secure the future.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, following global defense? We're looking at this short-term panic, this terrifying dip in 2030 and 2031. But it's deeply connected to a massive long-term goal.
Right.
Because the Navy's projections in the latest updates show that the rate of new attack submarines being delivered over the next decade will eventually outpace the retirements.
Yeah.
So after that dangerous lull, the seat is projected to rebound.
It is.
It increases to 56 attack subs by the fiscal year 2040. They're pushing through the bottleneck today to reach a much larger, modernized force tomorrow.
Exactly. And that 2040 horizon is about fundamentally changing the guard for America's strategic backbone. This is where the Columbia-class, those panic rooms we talked about, come fully into play.
Right, the strategic deterrent.
Yeah. They're coming online to replace the legacy Ohio-class ballistic missile submarines. The schedule in the latest updates shows the first 3 Columbia hulls delivering in 2029, 2030, and 2031.
Okay.
Then, hulls 4 through 8 will be delivered between 2032 and 2036. And by 2042, the very last Ohio-class submarine will be decommissioned.
Wait, 2042. Let me do the math on that. If the last Ohio class is retiring in 2042, and the first ones were built in the late 1970s and early 1980s, I mean, that means the Ohio class will have a nearly 63-year service life.
That is correct. A 63-year service life for a nuclear submarine operating in some of the most unforgiving environments on Earth.
That is mind-blowing. 63 years.
It really is.
That means in 2040, you're going to have sailors operating a nuclear vessel that is older than their parents, possibly older than their grandparents.
Oh, almost certainly. It's an incredible feat of engineering, but it also highlights how far past their intended design life these ships are being pushed. You know, you just can't extend them forever.
Yeah, physics gets in the way eventually.
Exactly. Eventually, the nuclear reactor cores literally run out of fuel. And the constant pressurization and depressurization of the steel hull creates metal fatigue that just makes diving unsafe.
Wow.
That's why the Columbia-class replacement is a non-negotiable priority. From 2042 onward, the Columbia-class will be the only ballistic missile submarines in service.
Okay.
This will allow the U.S. to maintain a strict, vital baseline of 12 to 13 active nuclear ballistic submarines for decades to come, ensuring that the strategic deterrent remains unbroken.
Okay, so the long-term plan is solid. By 2040, the U.S. will have 56 modern attack subs and a brand new fleet of invincible Columbia-class ballistic subs.
Yes.
But, I mean, this raises a massive glaring issue. We have these detailed public documents, the latest info forecasts, the exact years the older ships age out, the exact years the new ones arrive, and the specific lull in 2030 and 2031.
This raises an important question indeed. By publishing these shipbuilding plans to secure funding from Congress, the Navy has essentially broadcasted its own timeline of weakness.
Right. Imagine knowing exactly when your house's security system will be unplugged for maintenance, and knowing your neighbors know it too.
It's a terrifying thought.
Does telegraphing this massive 2040 buildup and openly acknowledging the multi-billion-dollar scramble to fix the shipyards today, does that inadvertently signal to adversaries exactly when the U.S. will be at its most vulnerable?
It's the ultimate geostrategic paradox, really.
How so?
Well, on one hand, committing $125 billion shows incredible national resolve. It signals to any global power that the United States is fully committed to dominating the undersea domain for the rest of the 21st century.
It's a flex.
Exactly. It tells adversaries, do not try to outbuild us because you will lose. But on the other hand, it perfectly illuminates that window of vulnerability.
Yeah.
If you're a rival nation analyzing this data, you see a U.S. Navy that is temporarily shrinking, retiring its cruise missile trucks, losing specialized intelligence gatherers like the Connecticut, and struggling to keep its supply chain afloat.
To sum it all up, the U.S. is spending $125 billion to buy both cutting-edge submarines and the basic survival of its own shipyards. They are forcing the industrial base to bridge this critical, dangerous gap in the early 2030s.
That's exactly it.
The latest updates show us exactly what the Navy's invincible 2040 fleet looks like. But if you're a rival nation looking at that temporary dip in U.S. submarine power in 2030 and 2031, does this $125 billion investment act as a deterrent? Or does it accidentally create a ticking clock for adversaries to act before the new fleet arrives?
It's a delicate, high-stakes balancing act beneath the surface of the world's oceans.
It really is. Thank you, everyone, for listening or watching, and we invite you to check out the other podcasts on the channel.
See you in the next one.